Good evening and welcome to the regular agenda meeting for October 10th, 2023, City of Nacogdoches. Mr. Boland, will you please lead us in prayer, please?
Let us bow for a moment. Our Heavenly Father, before we ask for anything, we want to thank you for all the things you have already given us. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that our city and local communities have. God, please bless the men and women in city government, the mayor, the city council, the staff, and all city workers, and certainly those who put themselves in harm's way like law enforcement, firefighters, and EMS workers. I am so thankful we have all of these in our lives. And I ask this in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if you'll stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank everybody for coming tonight. We'll start it with open forum, and I don't think there is any, okay? We'll move right on into the consent agenda. Everybody can take a look at it. If there's anything you want to pull out, I'd be glad to.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we'll go right on into the regular agenda. Item 6.A, consider an ordinance amending ordinance 178-09-23, appropriating various amounts in accordance with the budget adopted for the ensuing fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024. Bayou Loco Dam Spillway. Chase.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Assistant Public Works Director and Assistant City Engineer. Bringing you tonight a budget amendment ordinance to consider. It's for the Bayou Loco Dam Emergency Spillway. It provides protection for our areas downstream of the lake in case of a major flooding event. It will engage so that the water levels don't get too high and actually cause the actual dam to collapse. So very important. TCEQ requires us to maintain this in good working order. And they inspect it every 5 years or so. And so there were some improvements that needed to be made. Our budget for this project was $550,000. We already had allocated about $20,400 for engineering services as well as bid advertisements and things like that. And then we actually received bids on this project a couple of weeks ago. On September 11th, the low bid for that was $595,340. And so that overran our budget by a little bit. And so we also, in every construction project, like to have a little cushion, what we call contingencies, generally in the 10 to 15% range for just unforeseen issues that might come up during a project that we need to address. So we are requesting a budget amendment for $150,000 to get our budget up to $700,000. And that would allow us to move forward with this project. So I'd be happy to answer any questions after public comment.
Okay, is there any public comment? There being none, we'll have discussion. I'll ask this, Chase. Okay, this money is in the budget.
It's in the utility fund reserves, and so it's there. We're needing to bring it into our utility fund CIP budget.
But what about the $550,000?
That is currently in the CIP, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we're just adding 150 to it through
Yes,
the
sir.
utility reserve funds.
Right.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right.
And there are sufficient funds in the utility fund reserves to cover it, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Are you ready for a motion?
Suppose if nobody else has any questions.
I
one more question. I mean, so how did we come up with 550 if that wasn't it?
Well, that
I mean,
was,
because don't we usually go over?
I'm sorry.
Don't you usually have that little comfort in there?
We build it in generally, and this was based on our engineer's, best opinion of probable cost. We can say that what really was higher than what we anticipated on the bids across the board, for all bidders was the price of the rock, that we're using to stabilize the banks. It was, I guess it had a jump in commodity prices within the past few months. And so that opinion of cost was a little before that jump occurred, and so we just saw a higher bid amount for our stone that we're using to stabilize the bank.
So how much did the stone jump?
Well, I didn't bring the original estimate with me, but,
Well, how much
tens of
was the
thousands of dollars.
comfort on the other budget item? When 550 was voted, you had some leeway there.
well, we were thinking the bid would come in probably around $500,000 at the time. And so it came in about, 50,000, well, about 95,000 more than that. And so it jumped quite a bit in that amount of time.
Are we gonna kinda expect that on everything?
We have been seeing that on a lot of things. Asphalt, for example, not to get off topic, but commodity prices for asphalt, we just took bids on last week. And I was looking back, 2 years ago even, we took bids on asphalt products for our public works guys. It's gone up 50% in that amount of time. That's actually, I'm sorry, that's for the base. For asphalt, it's gone up $20 a ton. So probably about 20% it's gone up in just 2 years.
So I don't know if this is the correct time to ask this, but if you're asking for such and such amount of money for streets and drainage and things like that, is it gonna be higher just because, are we underestimating the
Well,
bond areas?
If a bond was approved, we would spend the amount of money that we received, and prices can go up. Prices for asphalt were actually lower in the current paving project than what we anticipated by $10 or $15 a ton, which was great because we were able to have plenty of budget left over. But we're in the era kind of commodities are jumping all over the place, and we do the best we can to estimate what it could be even months out when we're budgeting for projects like this, trying to anticipate what it may jump in the meantime. And most of the time we do put in enough cushion, but obviously items like this outpace us a little bit. But yes, sir, yeah, we budget as well as we can, and specifically for the street, if we were to get money for street improvements through the bond, it could be higher than what we anticipated earlier this year. But
So what would we do?
well, we would just do fewer feet of streets. We would, the amount
you'd
of
have to stay within
the
the
amount
money.
of the amount of linear footage you can do, and the amount of money just decreases when the prices go higher, essentially. So we would hope that wouldn't be the case, but that's essentially what would happen is
But I
we would
mean,
just
this
do
is
fewer
pretty much
streets.
predicting our future here, isn't it?
It's sort of an indicator, but hopefully not to the degree that this was. But chemicals also, not to get off on another story, but chlorine prices have quadrupled in the past 5 years, unfortunately. And so we try to budget for that every year, and we just are at the whim of the market, I guess.
So, along these same lines, I'm not trying to foreshadow too far into the future, but we're gonna discuss an item later on the clarifiers, and that bid came in significantly under what we budgeted, correct?
Right.
So,
Right.
I'm not saying there's a wash here, but some things are higher and some things are lower.
The market fluctuates, yes, sir, and on different things too.
So,
Go on, I'm sorry.
so I was actually, on the next item after the budget amendment, we've got the item details on the bid summaries. Is there any way we can pull that up? So I can ask you for sure which thing is the stone? Maybe I can,
Well, it should be called riprap
okay,
or
so,
something like that.
so that price was $400,000 by itself.
And I
So-
didn't print out the bid tab myself, but yeah.
And that was the lowest bid, and that was nearly 300,000 less than the highest there. But what did we originally budget for it?
For the stone,
The
I mean,
whole-
it
the
was
whole
all one.
project.
Well, we budgeted 550,000 for
And
it.
so that only gave us, 150,000 more to do all the other stuff in the project. The stone ended up being, more than 4/5, right?
Right, yeah.
So I guess that is what it is.
Unfortunately, we do the low bid process and, we got 4 bids, which is a good thing, but they all agreed that rock was expensive.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, I wanted to apologize for preempting. Those were wonderful questions, so sorry about that. But I move that we, what do we do with an ordinance? We accept it? What's the wording? Because it's an ordinance. We approve, thank you. That we approve the ordinance proposed in item 6A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, 6B, consider approval of a contract by and between the City of Nacogdoches and DJ Hanson Construction Corp. for the Bayou Loco Dam Spillway Rehabilitation Project in a not-to-exceed amount of $595,340.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman again. Yes, we would like for you to consider the bid that was previously mentioned from E.J. Hansen Construction in the amount of $595,340 for this project. Just to remind you, this is for regrading of the spillway. It's for some erosion protection with some stone riprap. And it's, again, required by the TCQ to be maintained in good condition. So DJ Hansen was found to be the lowest responsible bidder. They're from Bynum, which is out near Hillsborough, if you're not familiar with that area. We have not worked with them before, and neither has 215 Consulting, but they did check with several cities that they list as references, and they have done the similar type of work for them. And 215 feels that they have a reasonable evidence for being qualified to do this kind of work. So with that, we do recommend award of this contract to DJ Hansen Construction Corp. in the amount of $595,340. I'll answer any questions after public comment.
Any public comment? There being none, I have one question. Have you ever worked with Shirley and Sons Construction?
No, sir, and oddly enough, all 4 of these contractors were new to me. I've not received any bids even from any of these contractors, much less worked with them. So I guess this is a kind of niche type project that we don't generally work with these types of contractors on.
Okay.
Very often, anyway. So,
Okay.
So where are the others located? Do you know?
well, I didn't bring that information with me.
Are any of them within Nacogdoches County?
No, ma'am, no. I did look up their locations when we received these bids a month ago, seems like one of them was from the DFW area and somewhere out, west, but none of them in this area, no, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Chase, you come prepared to answer any question, because there ain't no telling what it's gonna be.
We try. We try.
What's your favorite color?
Just as a point of note, not that it matters to anybody other than me, but the $595,000 low bid and the $596,960 second bid tells me that we had a good set of plans. I know the highest bid was way out there, but when you get 2 bidders that close together on a $600,000 job, that means they all saw the same thing. And that's to the credit of our designer, 215 Consulting, so it was a good bid.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion? Kathleen?
Sure. I move to approve the contract as outlined in item 6B.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 6C, consider approval of a contract by and between the City of Nacogdoches and McKinney and Moore of Texas LLC for the 2023 WWTP Clarifier Rehabilitation Project and a not to exceed an amount of $1,439,472.09. Chase.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Assistant Director of Public Works, Assistant City Engineer. Again, before you, asking you to consider a bid for award, this time on the 2023 wastewater treatment plant clarifier rehabilitation project. Just a little background here. We've got 4 clarifiers at the wastewater treatment plant, and that's for redundancy. We use them all the time, but clarifier 4 earlier this year failed, and it's been in a failed state for several months. We've had it redesigned and bid out again. Clarifier 3 also is showing signs of impending failure, and so what we asked our consultant to do was go ahead and put together, it's really not extra work very much, but a second kind of bid item for clarifier 3. It's the same really equipment, same layout, and so it's basically doing the same thing to both pieces of treatment equipment. And so our goal was to at least fund clarifier 4 with the budget that we had. Early estimates we reached out to suppliers early on and got some pretty high estimates for equipment and installation. And so that's what we based our 2.4 million budget off of for the clarifier rehab. But essentially what happened was our bids came in. We bid out clarifier 4 as our base bid, and then added in clarifier 3 as an additive alternate bid, which means you can take it or leave it if the bids don't come in right. And actually, we were pleasantly surprised that our bids came in well below that 2.4 million that we had even for the first clarifier. And so McKinney and Moore of Texas was our low bidder in the amount of $751,782 and change for clarifier 4. They were also significantly under the others on clarifier 3 in the amount of $687,689 and change. The total would be 1.439 million. And so McKinney and Moore has worked on things for us before. They're actually out at our surface water plant right now, working on rehabilitating filter 9. And so they're well qualified to do plant type work, and so we're comfortable with them. They're out of Bullard. None of these contractors are in Nacogdoches County, but Duplachain's from Alto and Horton's from Lufkin, but they're all in the area, except for McInnes. They're from Louisiana, I believe. But we do recommend the bid be awarded to McKinney and Moore of Texas in the amount of $1,439,472.09 for both clarifiers 3 and 4 rehabilitation. Clarifier 3 won't be touched until clarifier 4 is back in service, so both clarifiers won't be down at the same time. But I'll answer any questions y'all have after public comment.
Okay, any public comment? There being none, I have one question.
Sure.
Okay, are these new ones or are we rehabbing the old ones?
Well, they're gonna be essentially new. They're gonna have all new guts. The concrete cylinders are gonna remain, which is the outer shell, but everything inside them is gonna be new.
Okay, and this is about $1 million less than what we had budgeted?
Yes, sir.
And where are we getting these funds from?
Well, this is from the utility fund CIP. It was actually a CIP budgeted project. So
COVID?
it's in the
CIP, what do you mean?
capital improvements program.
Okay,
Yes, sir. So it's an annual program that we
Okay.
have for capital improvements.
okay, all right.
It's on our regular budget.
And we had it budgeted at $2.4 million and it came in at 1.4.
Yes, sir.
In a little bit, okay, thank you very much.
Now, do 1 and 2 is running normal, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Now, how many do you have running? If all 4 was up and running, do you alternate them, or
No, they're all running.
running at the same time?
Yeah, the others are just having to pick up a little more slack in the meantime while
Okay.
number 4 is down. And and they're not running full, because they are for redundancy, but we do utilize them all at the same time.
Okay, and I asked that just because we basically right now have 3 running, right?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when 4 went down, didn't we budget some money for 4 originally? I'm just a little confused.
Well, we had, we knew it was starting to fail, so we had some money, last year in the budget, for the rehab, but when it went down, we started we started the design process, I think in May. And so when it went down, we just got to the end of the year and we hadn't gotten to the end of the bid process. So we did have budget for it last year, but we weren't ready to bid it out yet, so.
Oh, so we didn't spend any money the last time when it had the emergency and it went down?
Well, it wasn't we didn't have, to fix it, you can't, there's really no way to prop it up. You have to just take it out and fix it, but to rebuild it. And so it's not a overnight fix, but we had some money programmed for some things that we thought might happen, but it happened at a point in the year where it was too late in the year to fix it in time for the old budget. So we had this money this year based on the budgeted amount we had from the suppliers, for 2.4 million. And so that's what we were basing this bid off of.
I just am not clear. When we had the emergency, was it in May? Did we not spend money then? Because
Well-
it was a huge emergency, wasn't it?
Well, this was on the belt press, so we had the belt press is another component out there.
No, this
That
was a clarifier that I'm thinking about. Number
Okay.
4, I think, went out or something. It
We went down.
went down.
We didn't have budget enough to fix it completely at the
How
time.
much did we spend?
Well, we spent however much it took to design it, to get it designed. And so, I think 40-something thousand maybe, but it's a process. So we had to get it designed first before we could get it built. And we're at the point now where we can get it built because we have the plans and everything and bid them out. So we were running with the third one and the other 2. So we were operational. We just needed to get it fixed as quick as we could. And so we're at that point in the process where we can get it fixed with the contractor.
How long will it take to get it up and going now that we've got the plans?
Well, we gotta get the equipment. And so that's the biggest part right now with these things. If you remember the belt press, it took 6 months. But, to get it built after we have components on the ground, is probably 90 days.
Okay.
So, pardon my pun here, can you clarify for me exactly the function of a clarifier, just so I'm clear on what's going on?
Sure. So in the wastewater treatment process, we bring in obviously raw wastewater. We screen it out, take all the towels and solids out of it. We try to get as much grit out of it as we can, of the wastewater. And then whatever's left over, we send to these settling basins, really is what they are, they're called clarifiers. And what happens is, excuse me, the wastewater settles out all the solids that are in it, and what you have is a clear kind of supernatant liquid that comes off the top. It's not clean water, but it's close, and it gets sent off into our chlorine contact and out to the creek, and so all the solids that settle to the bottom are sent off to the treatment process and the belt press and things like that, so.
And so I thank you. I remember back from the May area, the belt press going down. What did that mean for us as far as from a labor standpoint? Remind me what that going down entailed.
So not the belt press, but the bar screen went
That's
down,
right.
and that's at the headworks of the plant. And that is like I said, what we use to basically get all the solids and towels and, basketballs and whatever else floats down the sewer. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. So the bar screen failed, and we have two bar screens. One failed back in February, and then one, the second one, while we were trying to get the first one fixed, the second one failed over the summer. That's when we did the emergency, basically procurement of the bar screen equipment back in July or August. But I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
but-
it does.
Okay.
I'm trying
I
to
could keep
figure out
going,
this
but-
whole process of what's working, what's not working,
Right.
and
We're trying to get more things working than are today, so. We're having a hard time with the wastewater plant. But they're hanging in
like
there,
it.
doing well. Right now, speaking of the bar screen, not that that's this topic, they're bypass pumping. A lot of people ask about that. And so, waiting on the equipment to come in. Like I said, that's probably January, but in the meantime, they're having to bypass pump the wastewater around the bar screen and scrape the screen manually.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much trouble are we in?
We're okay. I mean, we're
at a 5
operational.
or
No, we're
something?
operational. We just have some things we need to get fixed as quick as we can. I mean, the plant's operational. We're not in trouble with TCQ or anything. We just have some equipment that is down or going down that needs to be replaced. And that's the gist of it.
and the equipment we're replacing came in under budget.
This time it did, so we're happy about that.
I make a motion that we approve the contract for the wastewater treatment clarify rehabilitation project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, discussion regarding the police department's voluntary security camera program. Chief Weems.
Mayor, council members, Scott Weems, your police chief. I would, well, let's wait on there it is. You're good. Let me look at the door then. All right. So, let's move on to the map real quick, just to get you a, Rhonda, can you hit that for me, or do I do it? Here, I do it. Nope. No, the map. All right.
You can minimize the PowerPoint and then go to, you can copy that link.
Go over and show them how to do that. Yeah.
Excellent.
So is this a good time to discuss when we moved the internet people upstairs? And we've had problems the last 3 meetings.
Is he still upstairs?
Yeah, I guess. Hello?
That's Michael. Hello,
Yeah.
Michael.
There
There
it is.
it is. Thank you.
We got our own.
I could have done that. I just wanted you to do it.
Okay, so this map is what we have in existence right now, and this is a reactive map instead of a proactive. So that means that for any crime that's been happening for the last several years, we have made it a point to go to these businesses along the side. You can see some of them, and the houses, the addresses, and get video from them. And when we do get video, we map that location for video available for the future. And like I said, it's reactive, not proactive. So the new program is gonna be more in line with proactive. That means going out and getting it ahead of time and being ready, because some of these are time sensitive as far as the video and hard drive. Some of them don't last over 3 days, and some of them will last for 30 days or more. But we won't know that until we get into it. And so, and what we'll do is flag the 3-day ones as time sensitive and move on them a lot quicker. it makes our job a lot easier, and it produces, real evidence that we can work off of. So I'm gonna try to go back, now that we've seen the map, we may not be able to get to it. Go ahead.
On your map, 3218 Brook Hollow,
Yes.
you label that as uncooperative.
I don't think I did I?
It was on when I printed it out.
Okay.
Can you
If
click
they
on it?
did, that, I remember the
If you
incident
click
that
on
happened.
It'll show uncooperative.
Okay, if it did, then I remember that incident. I think it was a homicide down at the end of Brook Hollow. And I don't think at the time that person wanted to get involved as a witness. And so we had to, we didn't get to use that video, let's just say
That's
that.
my pastor's address.
Okay. Well,
That's why.
and yes, that is correct then.
Yeah.
That does bring back memories as far as
Yeah.
that particular situation. Sometimes we won't get the video.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we're not forcing people. This is, again, voluntary. Voluntary for, what you see now as a reactive, and voluntary for proactive.
And as far as cameras, I do know there's, in the community, there's several churches with good cameras.
Right,
Like where I live, the church has 8 cameras around the church.
right.
Now, I don't have a camera. I live right next door to the church. Now, I don't have a camera because their camera picks up my back door, front door, their lights shines on my house, so I
Well,
don't
you
need
got
a
it
camera.
made,
And we have used it twice.
right?
Because of some individual broke into cars even while we was having Bible study and et cetera.
Right.
And we was able to locate that person.
Right.
But-
Very effective.
Right, but I didn't see, like in my neighborhood, where they had even been asked, because I went and asked, has, police department come and ask about if you want to be put on the list.
Right.
Yeah, so I would
Well,
suggest.
this is just started. This is,
Okay.
again, reactive, this map. The going and asking is proactive. And so that's what, I'm bringing this to y'all's attention and to the public's attention. This is a brainchild that happened during Neighborhood Watch, or the day before. And so it's called Neighborhood Eyes. And it's basically the citizens in the neighborhoods watching out for each other. It's not necessarily your house that's gonna get broken into, but it'll be 2 houses down the road. But your camera will help us catch that person.
In the churches I'm speaking of, they in the middle of the neighborhood, and they have very good camera system,
Right.
real clear. You
And that's what we're
can pick
looking
up-
for.
Yeah, so,
Certainly helps us make a case.
and I'll approach them, and I don't see any reason why, because I'm the one that ordered the system for the church,
Right?
but that one can go on the list as being cooperative,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll
And
certainly
I
get it.
can contact the other ones too.
So we have a form that we can fill out, or get them to fill out, that they will let us access to their camera. It's voluntary again. We will ask. They don't have to. So, if this will go back.
So you were talking about, is it, 'cause some cameras delete the information, right?
Yes, sir.
After a few days.
It rolls over and it starts new,
So you'd have to get it pretty quick.
right. Some of them, you have to get real quick. Like 3 days, if it's over a weekend and the detective comes in and he finds out there was a crime and we need video and we go to that location, it's already rolled over.
And it's like Ring doorbell kind of things?
Right. For the most part, they do last, it's whatever camera system that person has and what hard drive they have. You probably could tell more about that than,
So, obviously, you've got sort of a fragmented approach because not everyone has the same thing.
right,
The system that we have at our house is all cloud-based, and it stores actions, motion, and vehicle detection and stuff for 30 days.
right,
Whereas if it was an on-premises hard drive like at a business, you might have 3 or 4 months of footage.
Right.
Which would be perfectly fine. But if someone was on a hard drive, like on a personal level, and it only held 2 or 3 days, you'd have to know where it was committed.
right.
And having a list seems like a really good idea to be able to say, okay, we know they might have had movement in this area.
Let's get over here.
Let's go ask everybody here and just do it.
Well, the list will pop up. In that area, we'll have the mapping list.
Right.
And it'll show, because we will note that this particular camera right here at this address is only good for 3 days. That's the first place the officer will go. And that's the responding officer. So the responding officers are starting to do this on a regular basis. That's how we're getting so many mapping dots, pins. So
Who bears the cost for this, Scott?
there's no cost. I mean, it's little to nothing. We're already doing it. And so basically it's, if we get them to sign up, whoever the person is, we put it on we map it, and then it's ready for the next officer to come by and.
Okay, let me give you an example. Could we put cameras, I know we can't do it inside, but outside of every single $250,000 restroom that we just paid for at a park?
Oh, that'd be here's what I'd like. I would like to see a camera on every fire station, on every city-owned building. You're right, these $250,000 bathrooms, we've been proposing that for years. But it takes money, and it takes internet, and it takes, especially out at the lake, we don't have internet out there. Over at the landfill, we don't have internet, but I think we do have a camera out there, don't we, Steve? But yes, I would love to see that all over. And
Okay, well, you talked about the cost. How much would the cost be, say, if we put them, just for example, at the restrooms?
I couldn't answer that right now. To be honest with you, I haven't done any
Is it
checking on that.
expensive?
Well, it depends on the factors he's mentioning. If you have internet at the facility, this is talking about being able to view it, not just recorded, but also live.
Right.
So you'd have to have internet at those places. This seems like something we should really dive deep into and have staff and those that are knowledgeable about these things get together and put together a proposal to bring back to the council. Because I think we're all pretty interested in that.
This would more than likely include Michael Donnell.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the largest cities already have that in place.
Right.
I just want to protect our investments. That's what I want to do, not only for the city, but also for our citizens too.
Right.
You know.
And
And if it makes your job easier to get a conviction, instead of, well, we don't have a case, well, there you are,
Right.
right there on camera, and that's what you did.
That's right.
So,
Well, that,
seems like, money well spent.
right. A lot of the fire departments we've already discussed would cover some of these major thoroughfares, the ingress and egress for some of the criminals that take, let's say, North Street or Main Street. And
Have internet coverage and
Right.
all of them.
those are easy fixes. And that would help us with, again, some of the major thoroughfares that,
You could put one on my building. if you
right.
need.
And by the way, Amazon is having a sale right now and all these things, so.
We'll have to run that through IT.
Well, you can get it on that cooperative that we're in, probably cheaper than Amazon.
Who knows?
So-
Buy cars cheaper.
Right.
I know that there are other entities in the county that are working on expanding their camera infrastructure. And so it might not be a bad time to be considering that as a city. And I'd love to be involved in it.
Okay, well, I know
Put
we
me
got
to work.
off a little bit, but I did try to explain everything. I know I didn't run through my PowerPoint, but I think I've explained a lot of what this program is designed for.
So I did ask Chief Weems to come and put this on the agenda and talk about it because I think it's so important, particularly after what happened at Maroney Park.
Right.
And trying to figure out, where that damage came from. And so basically, we're talking about two separate things. One is capitalizing on the footage that just individual people have. So for example, if I had, my own security system, then I could sign up and tell you, yes, I have security footage will be available to you, and my storage is for 4 days or
Right,
whatever.
Right,
And so-
existing cameras.
Right, and that is part of the Neighborhood Watch program, because that's what neighborhoods do, they watch out for each other. So to have this program, which I think is just wonderful, that can utilize the cameras that are already out there, I think that is just really exciting. And so that's why I asked you to bring it forward. And then also the other thing is, it may encourage all of us who may not have security cameras to go ahead and, they're not that expensive. I was just looking at them today. They're not that expensive, and we could go ahead and get them and make them part of the program.
It's a good investment.
And help the eyes, you call it
Neighborhood Eyes.
neighborhood eyes.
Right
and
on the
helps-
tails of Neighborhood Watch.
That's right, and it just would help the whole neighborhood watch program and the whole community. So I just was so impressed that you all were doing that's why I wanted to bring that forward, so people could hear and know what's happening and then maybe be part of it. So.
Thank you.
But then the other part I also agree with is that we do need to increase our surveillance, I guess is really what we're talking about, on our current buildings, because that's easy, but also we do need to think about getting at least, even if we don't have internet coverage, if we at least have cameras after the fact or something on those restrooms and those parks. We just have to have eyes on those parks. And I know Mr. Bolden, I remember you bringing that up 2 years ago about having security and camera footage at the parks.
Yeah, in the larger cities, they in conjunction with the media, like the media use the cameras for their news at 6 o'clock to say traffic jam here and
Right.
there. So some of that is not fully funded by the city, it's funded by the media groups also.
That's great.
Yeah, and I don't think we're trying to be Big Brother. We're just trying to help convict people that do bad things.
Right.
And protect people.
That's
I mean,
right.
we really
And
have to
that's our
protect our
job,
citizens.
you know,
I
protect.
can't stress enough that it's voluntary.
Yeah.
Well, and that was gonna be my question, Chief, on this program, which I think is fantastic. You're asking people to sign up, but you're not taking access of their camera systems. You're taking footage when you need it.
Exactly.
You're asking them to provide footage of an incident within a time window. You're not logging in and able to see their cameras 24/7. This
Right.
is, they're coming to you. I think that privacy posture is a good place for us to be, and I appreciate you and your team's work at putting this together. And Councilmember Bellinger, thank you for asking him to come, because I think I want to be a part. So what I think, for me, what I would like to see is some handout that I can give to someone and say, here, you need to sign up. I know you have cameras, get signed up with this program, or, media of some kind.
Right. We currently have a form created just for this.
Perfect.
And I think we handed some out for National Night Out.
Maybe, I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure we did. I think I've got some in my folder in the car.
And I do want to say that this is so brand new, so to put you on the spot with a developing new program, I'm so sorry. I apologize, but I'm really not sorry, because I'm
Oh, it's a
very
good
glad you
program.
did.
It was just about 15 minutes old when you contacted me.
That's true, so,
But-
yeah.
But this has been on the books. We've already been doing this for years, so it's nothing new. It's just a new approach.
Great, thank you.
So where do we go from here? This was a discussion item.
It's just, it was just a presentation.
Yeah, I'd like to proceed with this and have further discussion about this, and maybe we won't have to implement anything, will we, or?
Not on the neighborhood eyes, we wouldn't, but if we, if we're thinking about for our own facilities,
Right.
we would have to have something in the future.
Could you kind of think about, like, maybe come back with some figures and just start small? Just what would it take to cover the stuff we've built lately, the
Right.
parks and all the,
Okay,
and we could start, just like you're doing, in a small way and build out from there.
okay.
But come back with some figures if you have
Fire
time.
departments,
Right.
the parks,
Yeah.
okay.
But most of all, we're going to have to approach the citizens to let them know that we're not taking ownership of their
Right.
property.
Right.
We, just only an incident that happened in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I can read this right here. This is what we're gonna tell them. The owner of the security camera will have the authority to grant permission to the Nacogdoches Police Department to gain access to the security footage, should an incident occur that is possibly within their view. So that's basically, they have all the control, all the
They say
authority.
yes or no.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. Kind of the way we've been doing it already,
Right.
so. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Do we need public?
Neighborhood a night out thing. I
Oh,
thought it
it
was a great
is.
success.
It's
National
been-
Night Out was great.
It's growing over
Yeah.
the years, and occasionally we get the fire department to come show up, or show out with their ladder truck, and so, but it's very good for the first responders to get out into the community and just let the people see us and let them talk to us.
I like those cameras at our $250,000 bathrooms too, to protect our investment.
You're gonna get a new nickname.
Yeah,
Marty, 1 cent.
no more 1 cent Johnson. All right.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you,
very much,
Chief.
Scott. Thank you. Okay, moving on, item 6E, consider approval of resolution 1352-10-23 regarding nominations for the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. Interim City Manager.
You caught me in arrears, Mr. Mayor. Every couple of years, we have the opportunity to nominate someone to run for the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. The voting happens in the month of December, but we have to make that nomination by October 15th, so that puts it on us tonight. So generally speaking, the city has nominated a council member, and we currently have former council member Jay Anderson serving. His term is expiring, and so typically you would appoint one of you, and by resolution, you would approve a resolution tonight naming that candidate.
Is that a 3-year term? It has to be for Jay
I
to have
think it's
been
a
on there
3-year term. I think so.
this long, because, okay, that's all okay, I didn't know it was a 3-year term, and, first of all, is there any public discussion? Okay, I didn't know that it was a 3-year term, and when I became mayor, I thought we would just automatically remove Jay Anderson from the Central Appraisal District Board, but that wasn't the case. I mean, you pretty much have to go through an act of Congress to do that, and I had visited with Brad Mall about taking that position, and now it's time. So I'll recommend that we make Brad Mall the next director of the Central Appraisal District for the City of Nacogdoches.
I'll second the motion that he's nominated for the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Mayor, I've just confirmed it's a 2-year term.
2-year term. Well, why has he been on there that long?
Because it's in odd years.
Renewed.
It's odd years.
He had 2 terms, probably.
Okay, all right, okay. All right. Okay, we've got a motion and a second, right? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Mr. Mall is our representative for Central Appraisal District. Item F, consider approval of resolution 1353-10-23, creating a Chapter 380 Economic Development Program and authorizing an agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches and Z Prepaid Communication Services, LLC, regarding the development of a multifamily apartment complex. Ms. Philpott.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, Larissa Philpott Brown, your Economic Development Director. I have before you tonight, sorry, let me adjust this. so it's better. What is Michael in the sky is making it look better. I have before you tonight a Chapter 380 agreement to assist in the development of an approximately 80-unit multifamily apartment complex located on the corner of Pearl and West Austin Street. The developer has indicated that this development will cost approximately $16 million to construct. He has requested a tax abatement, a 5-year tax abatement, not an abatement, a rebate, which means just like any of the other 380s we've done in the past few years, he would pay the taxes and then upon a performance report would be rebated according to a schedule that is in your packets. That schedule, just for your reference, is 100% in year 1, 75% in year 2, and then 25% in years 3, 4, and 5. That schedule mirrors the schedule that was used on the last 380 agreement that the city entered into with an apartment complex, which is Legends or Lofts, I forget exactly which one that is, but the newer apartments on Pearl Street. There is, sorry, this is not working well tonight. There's a site plan in your packet that shows the approximate design of the apartment complex. He has indicated as of late that they would be developed more like townhomes instead of a traditional multifamily apartment complex. This is on the agenda that written in a way that would allow you to go into executive session to discuss it further when I'm done with my presentation. So just keep that in mind. On a quick analysis that staff did, it showed using this schedule and using some assumptions about the eventual value of the property, you should receive a return on investment in year 4. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have before we go into executive session, and then you're welcome to ask me any others in executive session.
Any public comment? Okay, all right, now we'll open it up for discussion. Ms. Ballinger, or go ahead.
No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, I have lots of, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Roy.
I just have one question. Is it apartments or townhouse?
It is,
That's a big difference in my opinion.
the 380 agreement does not specify townhomes. The 380 agreement states that it is a multifamily apartment complex. The developer has said that, now multifamily could be your traditional garden home, garden apartment complex that we see all over town. That can also include townhomes. I cannot promise you that they would be townhomes, though.
And when I've lived in I've lived in apartments and townhomes before, but I looked at townhomes as ownership. Apartments, not so. So, and that was my understanding, that this was going to be a townhome.
And that is the last that the developer has said to me, that it would be townhomes.
Okay.
Let me ask Steve Bartlett a question real fast. Steve, do we have a subdivision plat for this property on file yet?
No, there's no plat.
Okay.
Seems a bit premature. If we don't have that information, have we voted on this before?
You voted on the zoning change. It originally was zoned agricultural, and you
Right,
voted on
yeah.
the zoning change
You
for
did.
the several months ago.
I did, personally. I don't know.
Oh, you did? You weren't here.
No, I think
The
it was,
council voted on that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm old.
Yeah.
You know.
it's your fault.
I was
And I
not at that
accept
meeting.
But I just want to kind of know where we are with all this, because I got several letters of people saying there's not enough information to make this decision on. Where did that come from? Where's that, other than people complaining about things, where does that information come from? Do we not have enough to go on here?
Where does what information come from?
Well, I can go back to the letters and say, but they were talking about, we don't have any plans, we don't have plats. Just seems like there's a little bit of we don't know whether it's townhomes or projects, or, because it's called The Project here. I mean, what is it? I know
The-
that's a
the-
bad term, but
The project just is a general term we
Right.
use in every 380 agreement. It
But-
could be a,
is it
downtown.
apartments or is it townhomes?
the developer's last conversation with myself and the city attorney and the mayor all indicated that it would be townhomes. The agreement itself specifically just doesn't specify townhomes.
So is it something they can buy or do they rent?
I think it's intended for rental.
I think so.
So I think we're talking about a couple of different things, and I have, as you might already guess, several concerns about it. So, one thing is, really when we zone, they can build pretty much what they want, and we can't really control that much what they build. However, when we have a 380 agreement, we could specify in a contract that it has to be this, anything we wanted in a contract. So at this point, it's wide open. But my concerns are even before we get into a contract on this. My first concern is, do we have any idea how many vacancies, rental vacancies, apartment vacancies there are
Do
right
not
now?
have that information.
Well, it's my understanding we have many vacancies for apartments. However, I do know we do not have homes. And we need homes, and our home ownership is only, I just did a presentation to Tuesday Rotary today, so and you'd think I'd remember, but it's around 37%. And we are lower than any place, our home ownership rates are lower than, obviously, than the county, but then the state and also the US. And even accounting for the fact that we have a student population, our DTJ said that really in student towns, it should be 50%. So we have extremely low home ownership rates. And to me, we do not need to be incentivizing apartments. We have to continue incentivizing home ownership. And every time we incentivize an apartment over a home ownership, we're making that discrepancy, we're even increasing it. So that's my number one, and that's a policy issue. I don't have any interest in having incentivizing apartment owners who don't live here, because we're actually getting involved. And Larissa, I know you didn't bring this up, so it's not.
I am, at this point, yes, ma'am,
Right, right.
facilitating
This is
this.
not-
I'm gonna step aside.
Okay, right, it has nothing to do with Larissa's job, and she is the one who, she was asked to look into it. So has nothing, these are policies that I think we have to really think through as a city, what we want to do, and do we want to kind of put our thumb on free enterprise with somebody from out of town, and we don't even know what his resources are, or the company's resources, and are they gonna be another company that builds a slab and then says, well, we just really can't do anything here? And I think that's a real good question. Steve, you're coming? Oh, no, just talk about it. Okay. So, and then, of course, the codes. Then, on top of it, the newer council members may not know this, but there was quite a bit of discussion about even upzoning that area, because it's right near the floodplain, and how much area, and they did not rezone part of it that was right on the floodplain. But now if we know that area is so prone to flooding, and just recently we had cars lifted off, and we don't have information about the drainage in that particular area. So I think I agree with you that it's premature, and we probably would have to put sizable things inside that contract. But even if we do have a better contract and nail these things down, I really am concerned about incentivizing out-of-town, increasing apartments when we have plenty of apartments here. And I think we ought to reserve our incentives for home ownership. And just because it's I have a few other concerns, but I just thought I'd voice them. And thank you, Larissa, for your work on it. And I just think these principles are things we need to think about as a council and as a city, all of us need to think about that. So,
Okay,
Mayor, if I may.
yeah, you go ahead.
So I've gotten a lot of the same concerns from emails and from a number of people also. One of the reasons why we chose not to rezone that set was so they could build here. Not necessarily for an incentive. I don't think this is premature. We've been talking about this project. The first time it came to the council was July of last year, I believe. And we've said no, and we've said no, and we've said no. And then we were brought another proposal when the new council came on, and we've been negotiating that for 2 months. So on the one hand, incentivizing apartments, I understand that's a concern. But as I've stated before, we have a housing need. I know there are apartments in town that are probably vacant. There might be a reason why they're vacant, though, because 5 years ago when we bought our house, we were discussing where we were going to live next, and the apartments that were available were not very good apartments. There was stock available. We could go, 5 or 6 different places, but none of them were really where we wanted to live. So I think having an opportunity to build something newer that might be a reasonable place for someone to go, even if it was a little more expensive, because I would expect they probably will be. I think having things built and added to our tax roll has to be something that the council considers very, very cautiously, and getting that return on investment in year 4 on completely new valuation. I just think this is something we need to move on.
Okay. Let me say this. Kathleen, I'll agree with you on home ownership. I am a strong advocate of building subdivisions and having single-family homes. But we have a problem. It's too expensive. And I think we're looking at some things maybe in the future to help that situation right now. We've got 130-unit single-family home on Center Highway that I don't know if he's turned dirt on it yet or not, but we have a 380 agreement on that. And then we have a big project out off of Park Street that right now is still where it was 6 months ago. It's come to a screeching halt. So I am totally for single-family homes, developments. I'll do whatever we can to get them here. But the reason that we haven't had any in this town, and they're all going to Central Heights or Woden or Douglas or wherever, is because it is so expensive for the infrastructure to put these subdivisions in with the water and the utilities and everything, where, just a small lot would cost you $50-something thousand. Well, you put that with a house, and then you're at an 1,800 square foot house, $350,000-400,000. Now, that may be just the way the times are right now. But getting back to this property right here, this property has been, let me ask Steve Bartlett something first. Steve, is this property unique or unusual as far as drainage? Is it gonna bring more water into the creek, and is it gonna flood? I know the last time that it rained, which was in June, of any great sizable amount, was 7.5 inches of rain in, 3.5 hours, which was unusual.
Right.
That's primarily why we had the flooding. And we have those from time to time because we're bordered by 2 creeks.
Sure. And this property, by the way, didn't flood during that event.
Yeah.
So this entire development is built outside the 100-year floodplain completely.
Right.
And they have on-site detention, which they're doing in underground, this whole network of underground storage. So we've received full civil engineer's plans, signed, sealed. We've reviewed them.
They have the architectural plans are supposedly coming for the actual building interiors that will be reviewed. But we've already vetted their drainage, their access. They're submitting a traffic impact analysis to us next. But so the civil part of this is done, and we're satisfied with the drainage and the impacts to the site.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you. The last thing that I'll say is this property, I'm 67 years old, and I've never known anything to be on this property other than vacant land. It's been on the tax roll for probably agriculture for that long, I know, maybe even longer. We don't have any risk in this. The person that has the risk is the guy that's spending the $16 million. Now, I don't think that he's gonna, and I negotiated with him. I sat at the table with Keith, and he was tough. I mean, he wanted it his way, and he didn't get his way. He got what I thought I could defend with this council and with the city, the citizens of this community, and which was exactly what we'd given the Loft or whoever several years ago. And I think, you know, Chad, you're right. The apartments in this town are getting of age, and they're not very desirable to live in right now. And I know the enrollment at SFA is down this year, but if you look at the enrollment for the freshman and the sophomore class, it's up 4%. The University of Texas is going to grow. Remember, they just took this university over September 1st. So this isn't a trend that's probably going to happen. So, I don't have a problem with this at all. With, I don't want to get into the weeds with somebody that's spending money and tell him he's got to put, granite countertops, and I just think it's his property to sink or swim. It's his $16 million. The only question that I did have today, and I'll be quiet, was I did ask Jerry about the, what did I ask you about? It was the assignment.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether the agreement could be assigned.
Yes.
And of course, as I pointed out to you, under the agreement, any assignment of the agreement will require city approval.
Right.
Before that's done.
So basically what that means, if he starts this project and decides to sell it to somebody else, then that 380 agreement no longer exists. It only exists for this property and this owner.
Well, unless the city agrees.
Unless we agree
to the
yeah.
the transfer.
Right.
When you say the city, you mean the city council?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues, I had talked to Steve before about traffic analysis, and he referred me to that it was not an issue, I think at the Legends, et cetera, further down Pearl Street. But I still had a concern because it was so close to a major thoroughfare, West Austin. And I was asking if there was possible that the entrance off of Pearl Street could be a left turn only going on the north. And I think he told me that the street was not wide enough for that. But when I first looked at, and it said townhomes, I was okay at that time frame because I'm looking at townhomes because when I lived in 2 townhomes, that was ownership. We actually purchased that property. So that's what I consider a townhome is ownership. But evidently that's not in this case. But the only issue I really had was traffic analysis. And I guess we're still waiting on the traffic analysis, Steve? Okay.
So first, I do want to say, I really appreciate that we can have this discussion. And I really appreciate my colleagues, and even when I disagree. But I do have a big question about quality. Chad, you brought up I can call you Chad on here, right?
You
Okay.
can call me
So-
whatever you want.
Okay, so Chad, you brought up that we need nicer ones, right? Well, I have lately seen construction, because we really can't control construction. Some apartments are so shoddy that they will be falling apart in no time. I've been watching them come up, and you all know what I'm talking about. There's everybody in this room probably has seen shoddy apartments built. Is there anything here to keep that from happening? Just the materials, we're not having any requirement over the materials used, and I know some we can and can't. Go ahead, thank you, Larissa.
Just to answer that question, that is not currently in this agreement.
That's right. So there's nothing in the agreement to control this whole setup here, squeezing in 80 units, which I know is great for our tax base, but that doesn't look at all attractive, and it doesn't have any kind of green space within it, which I know was first proposed to planning and zoning and then to us, that was the intent, to have green space in there, and places for people to be outside. There is nothing. This is just crammed up living quarters right there. And there's nothing to control quality. There's nothing to say these are going to be nicer than what we have. At this point, I think it's premature. Maybe you can get a contract that I don't care about granite countertops, but I do care that the materials used are going to be quality materials, so that this apartment doesn't degrade in just a few short years. So I don't think we have anything the contract doesn't require, and in fact, I think one of the letters talked about what we might want to have in a contract. Jerry, do you remember what, what things that we might want on the site? Anyway, there were several things that, at least one letter talked about tying down and making it a little tighter in the contract for materials, or did you?
I didn't recall seeing those letters. If you recall, Councilman Ballinger, I came on board as a city attorney.
Oh, there was one
here-
today.
here
We
late
just
in
got
the-
a letter
Oh, okay.
today.
No, I
Just
haven't seen
right.
that. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I just don't see that we have any requirement that this is quality, or that this is a nice apartment complex.
Well, and I totally understand what you're talking about, but that would be subjective. I mean, what would be nice to me may not be nice to you. What would be nice to you may not be nice to Jerry. Again, I go back to the investor's investment of $16 million. If he builds something that's gonna last 4 or 5 years, he's not gonna get his money back. It's not gonna happen.
You sure might.
So,
And what they do, and what often happens
well, he won't get
is
his money back. He won't pay out that quick, Kathleen.
I've seen housing go downhill, and then it becomes, anyway, I've just seen a lot go downhill, so.
I have a question for Ms. Philpott, related to something Councilmember Bellinger said about green space, which I got one of those emails today also, and that was sort of our discussion, that the developer might be willing to offer some green space easements. I know that's not in the contract. Where did those discussions end up?
So I would have to turn to Mr. Bartlett, our
Our city planner,
interim city planner.
his favorite hat to wear.
Oh, boy. So those discussions pertain primarily to the areas which would be to the left of your screen here. So this property is much bigger than the picture you have. It's focused in on just the development. Those wiggly lines are the 500-year floodplain, 100-year floodplain, and floodway. So there's a huge green belt that goes from behind the apartments all the way to the creek, which is a pretty significant space, and that's being left undeveloped. And that was his agreement. On top of that, he said he would also be happy to give an easement for trails through there, which hasn't been defined at this point. He just agreed to do that. So basically that, I don't know, 25% maybe of the property is being left undeveloped, but everything from the back of that on is not space he can clear and develop.
So how much space is that? You say 25%, but how big is that in real terms?
I'm not sure I can answer that without actually having to run it, but it's,
Pretty significant.
yeah, I mean, it's
From
absolutely,
what
it's
I
not.
recall.
Yes, yes. In fact, and just to put some scale there, you see the last straight line on the picture, I guess. That's the, kind of the edge of the floodway. And so the creek is still yet way on over. So just look at scale of the apartments itself. You probably have nearly close to that same site all the way to the creek, in round numbers.
And so there is still the possibility of getting that easement for trails. Was that built into the zone change, or it was just a sort of a handshake agreement?
I mean, he just said that he would do it, and so that, and it was said at the zoning hearing, correct? But there's been no physical transaction of that to this point.
Just to clarify, I think part of the area was zoned and the other part was not.
And so that's correct. One method they used, and thank you, Councilwoman, one method they used was to only rezone, the areas out of ag to R4 was the areas outside the floodplain. So everything that's left inside the floodplain is still ag, which, laughingly could have one single-family house on it, I guess. But technically, it's not developable for any other purpose. And that was really the way that it was insured. Now, the trail easement was, again, I think, just a statement. I'll be happy to dedicate it. And I feel very comfortable that he would. I've spent many hours talking to this man. So I think that's still a done deal if you want it. So.
Let's see. Probably close to 50 years ago, when I was old enough to drive, the nicest apartment complex in this town was Rio del Oro. I don't know what it's called now. It's still there. And there's not a green space, and there's not a fun area, for everybody to have fun. And the pool's worthless. There's one at the very back. I don't know if it's still there or not. So anyway, it is what it is. This is it, so.
Well, so just to clarify, I would be very delighted to support a 380 agreement if there were townhomes that were rent to own. And I would hope he could recoup his dollars. I know that's not what we're talking about, but that's where I am.
Just one note of clarification on that. If that were part of the agreement, I just want to make sure everybody's clear that I can't enforce that they would actually ever be sold or be owner occupied. We could enforce that a plat be drawn up in a way so that they could be sold, but I could never go and knock on doors and say, are you renting or do you own this,
Right.
essentially.
But we might be able to tie it down a little tighter in a contract. I'm not sure. We have a miraculous contract
We
writer
do
here,
have an
so-
amazing contract writer.
But anyway,
I
that's,
just wanted to clarify that ownership versus renting. As far as a plat goes, it's very easy to define. As far as it goes from day to day, who actually lives in a property, we can't begin to enforce that.
but townhomes actually are a lot easier to have, they're more amenable to ownership than those apartments over there, so just thought I'd share that. That's it.
This,
That's all I have to
this plat as is could be subdivided to be a condo plat, so to speak. You essentially subdivide little tiny lots underneath each separate unit, so that could be something that could be done.
But then, there again, you're telling this man how to spend his $16 million.
Right.
That's right.
It's his money.
And it's our city.
That's right. Steve, one more question. Is this the only project that you have under consideration for apartments, townhomes, whatever you want to call it?
No, sir, there are several others we've had pre-development meetings that are visiting with us currently, yes, sir. They haven't been presented to you because they're not at that stage yet.
Right, okay. So there are several others outside of this one. This one just happens to be the first in line.
That's correct.
But are they asking for 380 agreements and tax?
At
Or
this
now
point.
they will be.
Well, at this point, the developers haven't. They've come in to find out feasibility and what they would have to do. The last question usually is, where's Larissa Philpott? And so we walk them down the hall. But we haven't gotten to that stage with either. I do have a couple right now with
Okay.
either of those two.
All right, thank you.
But once we do this, then we'll lose taxes possibly on all the next ones that come.
That's why it sits in your pile, yes.
That's right. So we have to
I'd stand on the
consider that
corner
too.
all day long to do this. I would. All day long.
Any other questions, Mayor?
That's it. That's all I
Okay,
got.
thank you.
Okay. We have a motion.
Make a motion, we approve resolution 1353-10-23 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have a 4-1 vote. That concludes our regular meeting of the October 10th City Council. We will, let's see, let me read. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.087 and 551.071, we will convene in executive session. We'll be back shortly. Thank you very much. Okay. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.087 and 551.071, no action. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. God bless the great city of Nacogdoches, Texas.